The Marijuana Policy Project released a great ad in Texas since a legalization bill successfully got out of committee. This is a retired narcotics officer talking about weed.
I know of no instance in my entire career where someone was acting out under the influence of marijuana. People under the influence of alcohol are much more problematic. Law enforcement officials have more important things to do with their time than arresting people for marijuana possession. They need to be there to protect the public, to respond to crimes such as robbery, burglaries, rape, and murders. Our state cannot afford to keep arresting people and putting them in jail for marijuana possession. It's time for a more sensible approach.
Yes, 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 yes. The Marijuana Policy Project hit it out of the park with that ad. And I'll tell you why. And we've spoken about this before with other ads that I think they may have done. To get more progress on this issue, it's not going to come from people like me. Because I'm already labeled, in the U.S. at least, some sort of crazy left-wing progressive lunatic. So people already know what I'm going to say on the issue. People already know what Bill Maher has said and he's going to continue to say on the issue. And it's good that we're still all trying to push the narrative. But to get real change from here on out, it's going to have to come from really old, conservative white dudes who are like, it actually don't make much sense that we're locking people up for smoking weed. By the way, that voice does not apply to this guy. just for the record here, I love that guy, whoever that retired narcotics officer is. Because he's speaking the truth. He's an old white guy, and that's going to click with a lot of people in Texas, let's be honest. And he's saying, why would we waste our resources and our energy locking people up for something that's actually not even as bad as alcohol? I don't know how anybody can argue with that point when you look at alcohol versus marijuana. How can you argue with that? We all know what a bar looks like at 3:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning after, everybody got fucking hammered and there was some sort of big game on TV and there's some people from, rival teams in the bar, different fans. We all know what happens, man. I can't tell you how many times I've been out at night in the city or elsewhere and there fucking fights break out all over the place. That's something that happens when people are drinking alcohol. I'm not blaming the alcohol, and I'm not saying we should ban it, but I am saying it's certainly not an intoxicating substance that has the opposite effect. It's not a substance that, once you get it in your body, all of a sudden, as the old joke goes, you want to eat some cookie dough ice cream and watch cartoons. That is what marijuana is. What's the worst case scenario with marijuana? I'll tell you what it is. Somebody smokes it and they get a little bit paranoid. But they get paranoid and they get in their own mind. It's not like a lash out at the world kind of feeling. It's not an anger, violence kind of feeling. That is what you get when you're super drunk, and that's the way you respond to alcohol. Many people respond to alcohol in that way. You don't get that with marijuana. Most people are just relaxed, and they want to hang out and be cool. And some people just get a little bit paranoid. But again, it's in their own head. It's not lashing out at other people. So how can anybody look at that system and say, yeah, let's legalize the one where people fuck each other up, and let's keep the other one where they relax illegal? No, the only way anybody could justify that system is if we've already had that system in place for so long and a lot of people are making a lot of money off of that current system. We've spoken about it before, but the lobbying efforts against the legalization of marijuana, that mostly comes from pharmaceutical companies. Actually, we spoke about this also, the DEA. Those guys are basically fighting tooth and nail to try to keep their jobs. Their job is, we need to be assholes to people who do drugs. So they're like, no, we don't want that legalized. Then we're out of a job. What are we going to do? So you have the entrenched establishment powers that are saying, no, we don't want this. You would think that the pharmaceutical companies would say, it's going to be legalized eventually anyway or decriminalized, so let's get ahead of it and let's, come up with our own marijuana and sell it and make money ourselves. But they're still fighting it, because they really do view it as competition to antidepressants and anti-anxiety pills and opiate pills and other painkillers. So what you have is people with a lot of money and a lot of influence and a lot of power standing in the way. And let's not forget the roots of the drug war in the first place: racism. And that's not some sort of liberal, kooky conspiracy that I came up with. No, it's well documented. Did you know, for example, opium dens were banned before opium was even banned? Now, why is that? Because it was the Chinese immigrants who were working on the railroad who smoked opium, and they smoked it in opium dens. So they banned it because it was predominantly Chinese people who went to these opium dens, and the white men were afraid that their daughters were going to go into these opium dens, get high as fuck, and then have sex with Chinese dudes. So we've got to ban it. We got to ban it. I mean, look, they're Chinese. I can't have my daughter having sex with a Chinese man. This is crazy. And the opium's going to bring the girls in. Can't do it. Can't do it. Again, look at the history with marijuana. Is it really not tied to the fact that it was predominantly a drug that was done by minorities? Please, if you believe that, I don't know what to tell you. It's counterfactual. You don't know the history of the drug war. It wasn't until the early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken, 1914 or thereabouts, that the first actual ban of drugs was on the books. People used to use cocaine after, like, dental surgery and stuff. It would numb the area of your mouth. It was a normal thing. You could go and get cocaine. You get cocaine elixirs, for example. Same thing with opium. Kids used to be given opium so they can go to sleep at night. So they wouldn't be all fucking loud and rowdy and stay up an extra 2 hours. The parents say, just give them a spoonful of opium and they'd go to sleep. So this idea of like, oh, drugs are bad. They're just so bad. You don't understand. We got to ban them. They're so bad. Okay, but if you want to be consistent with that, then why would you stop at just the arbitrary drugs you picked out? Here, let me help you out. Ban Red Bull. Ban Monster Energy. These are drugs. Ban caffeine. Why not? You would have to ban alcohol. If you're going to have a conversation about banning drugs, again, you would have to ban alcohol before you ban marijuana because alcohol is worse for people than marijuana. So this is clearly not an objective scientific standard you're working off of. The system is just operating off of momentum, and it makes no sense logically speaking. And to bring it full circle here, the Marijuana Policy Project did a great ad where they're striking the right tone and the right frequency, where they have an older white guy who looks kind of conservative saying, yeah, why don't we focus on locking up like murderers and rapists and people who do violent crimes? And how about we don't focus on weed? I don't really see much of a problem with weed. If that even convinced one person, which it very well may have convinced many, well then, again, they knocked it out of the park.